Looking at Austin Armstrong's defense, he did a nice job at Southern Miss. He takes a coffee break at Alabama, then gets a DC job at Florida, which was, of course, a great opportunity for him. Do you like what you hear out of him? Do you like what you got to see in the spring game and more the extension of the entire 15 sessions during spring practice?
So with the spring game, I'm kind of a nerd. When we get big acquisitions like this, like a new DC, I went back and watched every single snap that Austin Armstrong coached under other over at Southern Miss for the from the previous year. I'm kind of old school. I just got my pen and paper and just wrote down the stats that I wanted to see. There's a lot of things that people don't realize with the ebb and flow of the game that that stats don't show, right? So like during the first game that I watched, they played Liberty that went into like 5-6 overtimes. Pretty wild game. Essentially in the first quarter, Southern Miss loses their starting quarterback. He gets absolutely decleated by a linebacker. He's got to go out. They bring in the second stringer in, and he throws a pick right off the bat. So they say, well, what are we going to do? We're going to just take Gore Jr. and run the super back, which is essentially the super back is the Wildcat. So they ran the Wildcat for 6 quarters, which really puts a pressure on the defense, okay? So seeing that, I'm super excited. He's very, very aggressive, which can get you burnt, obviously. But I do like the energy and the coaching style. Everybody says it's the same as Patrick Toney, but it's really not. He's more aggressive than Patrick Toney. It's like what Patrick Toney did his first year at Louisiana. He came to Florida and got very conservative, and it was really kind of head scratching. But I think a lot of people are super excited to get the Gators standard back on the defensive side of the ball that we haven't had since Will Muschamp, maybe.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I remember that Frank Gore approach in the Wildcat was prepping for the Miami game the next week, Southern Miss taking on Miami, and we've got a Miami channel. That's all they had pretty much to go on at that point was what is Southern Miss going to do on offense, because Frank Gore just ran it 35 or 40 times. Good stuff. We got Cody on the line. Cody, the professor. F is for Fanatics right here on YouTube. Check it out. Please give us a like as well. It helps the algorithms and so forth on YouTube. And consider subscribing right here at the Voice of College Football. We'll flip to the offense. I don't know that I've come across a person, whether that's just a general college football fan or a Florida fan, who believes in Graham Mertz, believes this is a good move, believes that he's going to do anything special there. I would temper that to a certain extent, that he did a serviceable job at Wisconsin, so I don't expect him to be a disaster, but he's most likely going to be the guy. And so where do you stand on Graham Mertz?
Truthfully, with Graham, I have a different outlook on Graham. My dad is a UW alum and a very proud Wisconsin fan, and that takes a lot, okay? For as bad as they've been for the past couple years, they ran a terrible offense there. They were running 10, 11, 12 times. Paul Chryst goes out and gets the old wide receiver. I'm trying to think of his name now. It's still early for me. To kind of call plays there, and like Paul Chryst does, just doesn't let the play caller call the plays, because they were still running 9, 10, 11, 12 times in a row. And then when they would get in 3rd and long, they would expect Mertz to essentially bail them out with no wide receiver depth. And then he lost his tight end Ferguson 2 years ago to the NFL draft. So just a bad spot for the kid. I think Graham Mertz is serviceable. I don't think he wins you a bunch of games. I think he can win you one game. And when I say that, one game by himself on his arm, making the plays, driving down the field, 2 minutes left, and he goes and yanks the pumping heart out of the other team. I think he has that in him. A lot of people don't, but the guy has played a lot of football. And when you play a lot of football, you put a lot of good things on tape and you put a lot of bad things on tape. And I just think people just need to chill out, calm down. We're not going after anybody else in the transfer portal. This is the guy for the next 2 years until Lagway gets here. And you don't want Lagway starting as a true freshman. I don't care how good he is. I don't care if he's a phenom. You don't want that, not in the SEC. So people just need to calm down, let Mertz do his thing. The offense is kind of built for Mertz. You got 2 NFL backs in Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne to lean on. So you have wide receiver talent now. I think he will be more productive than what he was at Wisconsin. And truthfully, if he wants to make the NFL, he has 2 years to do it. He's got to save his draft stock. I mean, he was a 5-star coming out of Kansas. It was the biggest quarterback that they got since Russell Wilson. And a lot of people don't realize that Russell Wilson was a grad transfer over at Wisconsin. So truthfully, this is, when you're supposed to be the guy to save the program, that's a lot of pressure. And he talked about that when he got to Wisconsin, that it just, as a 18-year-old kid, he was supposed to save the program. And guys, everybody elevated in the Big Ten. Illinois is better. Michigan and Ohio State are playing at elite level. Everybody seems to be stepping up. Minnesota, Michigan State, everybody seems to be stepping up. And when Wisconsin was recruiting in the 70s and 80s with Paul Chris, it just didn't help him. He didn't have any weapons.
Yeah, 70s and 80s might be a bit of a stretch, but maybe in the 30s and 40s. But I get your point on Wisconsin talent there. But in terms of, you make a good point about Graham Mertz, because I hear a lot of people that make an excuse in regards to saying, he didn't have much to do. He's throwing 18 passes a game. So that's an easy job because the running game does everything. Well, you can look at it that way, but for any particular Wisconsin drive, as long as they're running the ball at 6 to 8 yards a clip, he's never going to throw the ball. But then when he does have to throw the ball, he's stuck at 3rd and 9 all the time. And it makes it difficult for a quarterback, to always have to be in a passing situation when they're throwing the ball, when they only throw it 18 to 20 times a game.
Absolutely. It's hard for a quarterback to get in a rhythm, and a lot of people don't realize that. And you're playing against, when you're in 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, you're playing against with the defense is blitzing. They're in pass coverage, and they know there's only so many routes you can run. You know what I mean, Mark? It's one of those things that they're gonna sell out, and sometimes he got them, and sometimes he got, and that's the part of it. And guys, this isn't no slouch defenses up there. Iowa's always high. Ohio State has taken a step back, but they have athletes absolutely everywhere. Michigan always plays a hard-nosed defense, so it's not like they're in the Pac-12 where there's essentially defenses questionable at times. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Even in his own division, as you mentioned, Iowa's an elite defense. Even Minnesota and Illinois have upped their game and have been top 10 defenses the last couple of years.